Hello and welcome back, fellow Indies, to Indies on Indie. I'm your host, Patrick Poe, and it is hot in Kansas City right now. Like, it's really, really hot. Like, it kind of seems hotter than usual. It's that hot. But, like, maybe it only seems hotter because I didn't have AC for, like, 10 days. Or maybe I didn't have AC for 10 days because it's hotter than usual. I'm not really sure. But we didn't have AC. That was really fun over here at IX. We had no AC. Kind of put a pause on a lot of what we were doing because the computers already don't like the heat, and we didn't want to make them super, super hot because our house was super, super hot. So that's how it was. We had no AC. We did very little work. It was like a forced vacation where it was so hot you didn't want to be in your own house. But luckily, we're back. Our AC's back on, and we even have a new computer in the office. So things are up and running, and things are getting exciting, and we're working on the way it goes again quite a bit, and things are moving forward. So that's all very, very exciting. And I'm very excited to be back up to work and not in my hot, no AC house. Because now I can bring you fun little podcasts like this one. Yeah, I'm very excited about this one, in fact. It's kind of a big deal to me in like a stupid way, but it's exciting to me because I've known of today's guest pretty much since I started filmmaking in this area in Kansas City, which is where I started filmmaking. So since I started, I've known of this guy, and I've wanted to talk to him since we started the podcast. I was like, this is something that needs to happen. I need to talk to him. And if you listen to the podcast regularly, you know that I'm really, really good at getting things worked up in my head and making a big deal out of them and worrying about things, including asking people to be on this podcast. I'm really good at worrying about that. And today's guest was definitely one of those people that I worried a lot about. And I was trying to figure out the perfect way to ask him and the perfect time to ask him because he doesn't live in Kansas City anymore, but he visits often. So I was trying to figure out how to like schedule all that. And I'd built it up in my head so much that I had thought I'd reached out and that he just never responded. But then I was at a film festival and I met a person who had worked with today's guest, Chris, and I was talking to him about the podcast and how much I would love to talk to Chris on the podcast. And he was like, oh, well, I'll tell him that. Have you asked him? And I said, yeah, I asked him and he didn't respond. If you'd reach out for me, that would be incredible. And he reached out and he got back to me saying that Chris was interested and that he didn't remember ever being asked by me to be on the podcast. And that's why he never responded. And then I looked through my email and Messenger and stuff, and I realized that he never responded because I never asked. I had just thought about it so much that I had not only decided it happened, but I'd also decided that it happened poorly. So that was a fun little experience. And then I had to be like, oh, yeah, I don't think I did ask you, but do you want to do it? That'd be really cool. And then he did, and he came on, and it was an absolute blast. And you're going to hear it in just a second. But before I get to that, I've got some exciting things in Kansas City, things that are going on right now that I need to tell you about, such as the next Jokes with Drinks at Crystal Spot in Lawrence is coming up. It's July 26th. It's always a fun show. They've got great drinks, and just if you're asking me, I highly recommend the cobbler. It is delicious. They'll put some ice cream on it. Oh my gosh, warm cobbler with ice cream. There's nothing better. You can go eat that and see funny people on July 26th. Show starts at 8. It's a free show, so there's really no reason not to be there unless you're doing something else, which is probable because this weekend is also Casey Fringe. Not only this weekend, but next weekend. It's Casey Fringe right now. It's happening. It's everywhere. And we at IX and me have so many personal friends that are a part of Fringe. I'm going to tell you about a couple of them, but you should check out the Fringe program and see all the cool things that are going on because there's a bunch of cool shit going on at Fringe. One that I have to mention is Hope Helpline by Liz Curlin. You should go see it. I mentioned that last podcast episode that you need to go see her show, so please do it. Go see Hope Helpline by Liz. It's amazing, and she came and talked to me, so her episode's coming out soon, so you click subscribe now, you go see the show, then you come listen to the podcast. It'll be kind of fun to hear where she was at a couple months ago before the show happened. So do all that. Subscribe to the podcast. Go see Liz's show, Hope Helpline at Fringe. Also, a good friend of mine and fellow comedian and actress who's been in a couple of our things, Amy Rivera, has a show. It's called Puerto Rican American Gothic. You should go see it too. I'm sure it's going to be funny. I'm going to go see it soon. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm very excited to see it. Also, last night I saw Caitlin Cook's Death Wish. It's a stand-up performance art type show. It's a one-woman show. She does a great job. You should go see that as well. She's in town. She's not a KC native, so she's only in town for a couple days. So you've got Friday happened. I saw it. It was great. And then you've got Saturday. I don't know if she has a show Sunday. She might. But she definitely has one Monday and Tuesday. So you should definitely try to go see one of those shows. There's only the 4 of them. And she's only in town for a little bit before she takes it to another Fringe Festival. She's going to a bigger one, and she was just at the New York Fringe Festival. So she's at all the Fringe Festivals. Go see Caitlin Cook's Death Wish. All right, that's all I had. So let's get to today's show. Today's guest, he's been a part of the KC indie film scene for forever, as far as I'm concerned. I think he says the exact year in this podcast, but I'm going to say forever. And you might recognize him from the TV show version of From Dusk Till Dawn, or Netflix's Godless, and The Kid, the new movie The Kid, directed by Vincent D'Onofrio, starring Ethan Hawke and Chris Pratt. He's in that also. He's in The Kid. So without further ado, here is me and Chris Bylsma.
Do I need to adjust anything with this mic or anything, or just kind of
a little pointed up to you would be nice. The last guest was a little shorter than you, so
I guess so, yeah.
Or I moved it, and I was like, this is approximately what a human height is, but
it's just okay.
Yeah,
easy. Even I can do that.
Yeah, and then this just like tilts up and down if you don't like it in your face or whatever. It's whatever you want. It's all up to you. Okay. You can adjust it as it goes. I don't care.
I guess you got yours tilted up. Is that better than kind of tilted down or straight?
I like it so I can see your face.
Oh,
I like to see you.
You don't want to stare at the mic.
Yeah. I used to have them set up really poorly, and it was like me looking at a mic and they were looking at a mic, and I was like, I bet I could make this better.
Yeah.
This could just be better.
We could maybe have a more personal connection as we do this.
Yeah. I could see their eyes maybe. That would be nice.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of people get flustered by the headphones because they're not used to hearing themselves. But I'm sure you do a lot.
It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, you're like, this is my voice. I've heard it a lot.
I got to be comfortable with it, even if it sucks.
Do you have that feeling? Because I definitely don't like my own voice.
I don't honestly care too much. I don't get too much into critiquing myself. I'm just like, I know.
That's good.
Yeah, I just know there's plenty not to love, but it's what I have, so I'm just gonna roll with it, you know.
That's perfect. That's a perfect mentality. That's something that like I even like have written down here to talk to you about is like, you ever like, just from stalking you on the internet, because we've been friends on Facebook for a while-ish. I don't know how long. You have a really good outlook, it seems.
Oh, I hope so.
It seems like you're very positive and you have a very healthy mindset, which is, I would say, very difficult in the world, but also in the field that we're in. True. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's only so difficult for a white guy in the world to have a positive mindset, but you know, yeah, I try to. I mean, there's a lot of shit going on, and I think we should all be, you know, cognizant of it, of course, and do what we can to hopefully change things for the better. But at the same time, as far as my day to day, I just can't allow myself to get caught up in the negative stuff, you know, because then that's only gonna, it's only gonna become a vicious cycle. It
just becomes a hindrance.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's obviously we all know what happened with Louis C.K. and we're all hoping that, you know, he's actually fixed things and he's truly sorry and repentant and everything else. I used to listen to a lot of his comedy and I felt like
same.
Yeah. And I haven't done it so much now, and it really, his points are no less true than they were then. It's just for me, comedy is all about, I have to be in a state of mind and want to enjoy it
Yeah.
and receive the art, and I don't feel like receiving his art.
Yeah.
Hopefully that changes down the line. We'll see. But yeah, he speaks a lot about just, oh yeah, this stuff is negative and it's real and everybody deals with it. So let's just talk about it. You know, that's another thing I try to do a lot of in person and online, is not just like post the, oh, you know, it's a great day because the sun is shining stuff.
Yeah.
That's nice and it's good to be positive, but I also find people, no offense to them, whatever you want to do works, but I find that kind of off-putting, just this relentless positivity. I'm like, hey, it's all right to admit that you're having a bad day or that something sucks, you know, and let's talk about it instead.
Yeah.
Instead of just like keeping it bottled in.
And this is like, I don't know why I have this feeling. I'm really bad at posting like that on the internet. I'm okay talking about it like in this type of scenario, but for some reason, and I think it has to do with the fact that I'm like trying to be something besides just myself in a weird way. In fact, like I would like to continue to have people want to work with me as like a director and a writer and even as an actor. And so like I worry personally that like if I'm always like, things kind of suck today, I'm in a bad mood. Like they're like, no, I don't work with him. He sucks.
Yeah.
He said things suck. And so like I worry about that a lot on Facebook. And for some reason I've just decided that like if they care enough to listen to my podcast, they probably care that they understand I'm a human being.
Sure.
But I feel like on the internet, sometimes people have this like odd view of like, oh, this is the perfect version of them. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to show the imperfections.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid. And I think that there are people that will just kind of cross you off the list as being like, oh, well, it seemed like maybe, maybe a little difficult. I don't know. I can't quite tell. So I'm just not going to work with them. And I get that. And I have, after a couple of days, sometimes I've gone ahead and like gone back and taken down a post. Typically, I don't do that because I'm just like, hey, if I said it, and then I'm going to own that. And if it was, because it's never something like personal about somebody else. It's just myself.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'll never do, is I'm not going to talk about somebody else's life.
You're not talking shit on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll talk about my own. We can talk about yours if you want to. I'm not going to cross that line, of course.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if I have a thought or if I want to share something from my life, then I'll just put it out there and, sometimes I'm wrong, obviously, and I'll own that. But there have been a couple times where I just kind of thought through. I was like, yeah, it's still totally valid. And it's conversations I want to have in person, like you said. But it's not the right time to put that on Facebook necessarily. So there are some moments like that where you do have to kind of censor yourself a little bit in this industry, I think.
Yeah. And
I know that probably my agents wish that I censored myself even more. But it just is what it is. And I think plenty of people aren't going to work with me already.
That's
I'm just not going to be hired. So I'm like, it doesn't matter that I'm not going to put forth this perfect, like polished persona and contribute to the fact that that's what most of social media is. I'm going to kick back in my own little way and just be a human on it, and that's messy sometimes. I don't give a shit.
That's great. Because like even like this past week, I like had a weird thought because I did the Comic-Con show. The week before that, I was at a different film festival, and then like we announced that another film I made got into a film festival. It's like, oh, this looks like on Facebook. It looks like everything is just like peaches and sunshine.
Yeah.
But like, and then I was like, do I need to tell people that like it's hard still? Like it's all hard, and like even being at Comic-Con, like it's hard. It's like there's so many people, and there's the pressure of a show, and like all of it is great. And I don't want to like whine about it, but it's still hard.
Right.
And like I still deal with like I'm still a human being that like has hard times, but I don't want to post that on Facebook. But then I also don't like, I'm now bucking up against like, I don't want to be like, it's all great all the time.
Yeah.
So now I don't know what to do anymore.
That's a good problem to have so much great news that you feel like you might need to balance it out. Like,
I guess you're right. Yeah.
And I guess I actually put up a post similar, not that long ago. And it was just, sometimes people kind of look at, I guess some of the stuff that I've achieved, and I'm not, by any means any big deal. It's just, I've had some successes as I categorize them. And I'm grateful for that. And other people kind of on the outside looking in are like, oh, well, how can I have that? Or that
Yeah.
must be so easy or whatever. And I'm just like, hey, just remember, I mean, it's not luck. It's not, unless you're rich or you were born into a family,
Yeah.
like then you
Yeah.
pretty much have it handed to you in a way. But like, it's a lot of hard work and it's a ton of sacrifices that you guys don't see behind the scenes,
Yeah.
And sometimes people are like, well, you know, I wish I could have your acting career. And first of all, I say, well, you should shoot much higher than that,
But I'm sure there are people that like watch your Facebook and see like, oh, Godless and The Kid and like From Dusk Till Dawn and like all the cool shit you've done, and go, wow, he's really like, he's a success. Like Chris Bylsma, he is a success. I wish I had that.
Yeah,
I think that there are probably
yeah.
people that compare themselves to you and are sad. But that's their own problem.
It is.
That's
It is.
because that's the comparison thing that we shouldn't get into.
Mm-hmm.
But
And I don't want people to feel that way, and I want to reach out and help people any way that I can, as long as they're not taking that feeling and channeling it into jealousy and negativity.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot. Like, and I've been there before. I've been jealous of another actor's success, and I've been like, you know what? I can't remember it now, but I remember I think maybe it was an Instagram post or video of Idris Elba, and he was just talking about his journey, and I can't remember the whole thing, but a paraphrase at the end of it was like, hey, it's like climbing a mountain, and it makes no sense at all to look around and see who else is climbing the mountain, and oh, they're closer to the top, and oh, they're just starting. Like, just focus on the climb.
yeah.
And when you get there, you'll get there, and it's your own journey, nobody else's. So I'm pretty big on not being jealous and trying to drag down other people, which happens all the time in this industry, unfortunately. But there are times when somebody will be like, oh, I just wish that I had what you have. I'm like, well, you're as much as I try to keep things even on Facebook with posting, the turmoil. It's like, you don't know all the sacrifices and everything else. Like, you might be glad
It's hard
that you don't have my life. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's hard to balance, but I think it's especially big in this industry where like comparison is done anytime you go to a casting, you're obviously getting compared against other people.
Right.
But I think you need to get that mindset that kind of what you were just saying is that like you're on your journey and you're going to get the roles that are right for you. And like, I'm not going to get those roles because they're not you know what I mean? Like, and I don't have a problem with that. That's just how it is. And we're on different journeys, and you need to get to a place where it's just cool to see your journey and everybody else's journeys.
Sure, which is tough,
which
of course.
Is so hard.
Easier said than done, but still, it's really important. Yeah, I mean, if you and I were going out for a role, I had long hair not long ago, but I don't now. So if you get the role over me, I mean, it might just be because you're better than me, but also like it makes no sense for me to even worry about that stuff. All I have to be like is, okay, well, he's long hair. Maybe they just wanted somebody with long hair. That's why I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal. I shouldn't be like mad at you because I don't have long hair and I'm not going to grow it back out again. So
you're done with it?
It just is what it is. Yeah, it would. I mean, I'm almost done with all of this. I just want to shave my head now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm waiting for the right role. I'm like, can I just be paid to do it and then decide if I like it or not? That'd be perfect. But
I have been toying with cutting it off for like 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. And my friends are tired of it at this point because they're tired of me being like, this is the year I cut it. I'm going to cut it all off. And they're like, sure you are, buddy.
Right.
I'm like, no, for real. Like, I'm writing a feature. I'm going to be this role in it. And I'm going to cut my hair for that. Yeah. And then I'm like, no, I'm not.
You know what? This character could have long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like the version. You're like the Kansas City Chiefs as a human being. This year, it's gonna happen. We're gonna win the Super Bowl. Okay, yeah, we'll see. Something's gonna change.
Something's gonna happen, and you're just not gonna do it. But whatever.
It is hard because it's like, you know how long it took you to grow it out. It's like, well, what if I cut it and then I want it again? That's gonna be months, if not years.
And like, because we're in this industry, I'm like, well, what if like the hair is what gets me that role? And like, I'm sure it loses me a lot of roles. But it also, like, the one commercial I did, it definitely got me that role.
Yeah.
Because like they said they wanted a stoner, and I was like, I look like a stoner.
Nice.
So like that's what they got, and like I don't know why they wanted a stoner, because there's nothing stoner-ish in the commercial at all. And like they even put me in like khakis, a button-up shirt, and a vest. So like,
Interesting.
They canceled out the long hair and beard for the out, but
Whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's not my problem.
Right. You
So
got the role and you got the check. So.
exactly, yeah. But that's something that like watching you cut your hair and grow it and cut your hair and grow it. I'm like, man, he's just confident about that hair. I don't know, like.
Well, it's more the beard now for me. Like, I never had more of a beard than you probably when I lived in Kansas City. Just because that's personally how I preferred it and whatever else. And when I decided to move to New Mexico, I thought, well, I'm going to strategize. Part of the reason I moved there was I felt like there were a lot of period pieces and westerns and stuff that my look would work well for. And so I thought, well, why not kind of lean into that and grow kind of a bigger beard, and also that way, hopefully, I'll stand out and be a little more memorable for casting directors.
Yeah, he's the guy with the big red beard.
Yeah, because they don't
Yeah.
know me at all. This is the first time that they'll be seeing me.
Yeah.
But if I come in with a big beard that most people don't have, then it's like, oh, okay. Well, he's not great for a lot of roles, but when I need somebody like from Dusk Till Dawn, when I need a dude that just got out of prison, yeah, we'll cast that guy.
Or whenever I need somebody in a western, which is odd because Godless did
Yeah.
they have you shave it?
They
or-
had me shave it in Godless, and the kid also just happened that Charlie Bowdre actually has more of a goatee kind of a thing.
Okay.
And so I talked to the director. I was like, I'd really like to match, real life as much as possible. He's like, oh yeah, that's great. So I shaved it for that too. Like, I'm not sure if I've actually had a beard in a Western, which is funny, but
Because that was the goal.
yeah, so that was in my thinking at least, but it worked out. I can't complain.
So your what you just said is so funny to me because it like literally hit on like three things that I was interested in, which is like you moving to Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
What sparked that? Why Albuquerque,
Sure.
New Mexico?
Well,
I'm sure it was meticulously planned.
sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
I try to plan out this industry as much as I can, just so that there's at least some sort of plan of attack, even though a lot of it is just obviously chance and everything else. But at the same time, I'm very much like, oh, I think I need to do this. Okay, I'm going to do it then. Like,
Okay.
when I moved to Kansas City, I was still working a 9 to 5 and just doing films up here on the weekends in Topeka. And then all of a sudden, I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I want to go to LA. Maybe I want to try KC first. And all of a sudden, Tosin Morinfala, an actor that I just met briefly in a
Is that
film.
how you say his last name?
That's how I say his last name.
Okay.
Yeah, Morinfala. That's as close as I can get. Sorry, Tosin. But he posted on Facebook, he's just like randomly, hey, my brother's moving out. I might look for a roommate if anybody's interested. And I thought, well, I barely know him, but we got together. We got along well, and it seems pretty reasonably priced. So I was like, well, can I come up there and just take a look at it? Went up there again, like we just really had a great spark, and the place worked and the price worked. So I was just like, huh. Like, I think it was the very next day. I was like, okay, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks then and resign and move to Kansas City, trying to plan it out. But still, when I know it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what happened with the move to New Mexico also, to get to your actual question there.
That's okay. We have a lot of time.
You could always cut out the setup, right? Yeah. I just, as much as I love Kansas City, I had been working there for a little over 3 years full-time, just doing acting and crew on the side and reel editing also. And I was just like, man, it's great. I've met so many people and been a part of so many projects that I was so grateful for. But I don't know. I just kind of felt like I needed a little more push, because I also, it's not good if I ever feel like I'm stagnating. Like, I need something to keep pushing me forward. And there's a lot I still could learn in KC, but I was really getting into kind of the episodic movement at the time, as everyone was, I think.
Yeah.
Where it was rising then, and it's even more prevalent now, but it's just the most interesting way to tell a story, I think. And I was like, well, right now, because of tax incentives and other reasons, that's not happening in Kansas City. So if I want to be a part of it, that means a move to another market. So I was kind of looking around and weighing my options, and I didn't want to just jump into LA or New York without any like recognizable credits. I had a bunch of indie work, but if a casting director looks at your resume and doesn't recognize it, they'll just be like, okay, well, at least you have work, but I don't know what any of this
Someone
is.
hired you, but this doesn't matter.
Yeah, or you're lying. Hopefully you have a reel so you can show them you're not. But I was like, I'd rather move to a medium market and try and build up my resume a little before I decide if I even want to go to LA or New York. And I remembered way back in, I want to say 2009 or 2010, good friend of mine now named Brian Reese moved here from Albuquerque for his work. He works in the Air Force, and so he's moving to Leavenworth, and he wanted to keep making films in Kansas City because he'd done some of that in New Mexico. And at the time, he would tell us about it, and I was like, I didn't know they made movies in New Mexico, as most people still don't know, you know? Other than Breaking Bad, maybe they're aware. But he would tell these stories of like, oh, yeah, there's, you know, these big sets, and, oh, there's food trucks. You can order an omelet for breakfast. And as indie filmmakers, you know, with their Cheez-Its and Jimmy John's sub tray, we're like, just all staring up at the sky like, could this even be possible, you know? And he told us a story about Christian Bale's freak out that he was on set to see, you know, on Terminator.
Oh, yeah. Was that Albuquerque?
Mm-hmm. They filmed that in Albuquerque. And it just, you know, I never really considered, I just remembered it because they were fun stories, basically.
Yeah.
But when it came time to move, I was like, something's kind of sticking in my head now about Albuquerque. And so then, as I did my research, I thought, well, it seems like mostly they do a lot of period pieces and westerns, like I said here.
Yeah.
A lot of other stuff, too. But that's something
stuff that would be set in the desert.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. This is the desert. This is, you know, set in an old fort, whatever. This is Texas, quote unquote, because we have more tax incentives. But I just thought that's
a barren wasteland.
Yeah, exactly. We have lots of that here. So, and I knew it would fit my look.
Yeah.
Because I'm very realistic with myself. I know I'm a character actor, and I know that I have kind of a look that works well for those genres. So that's really what kind of motivated it. And again, it kind of came out of nowhere because all of a sudden I met with an old friend of mine from high school, and he was saying, oh, I'm moving to New Mexico for work. So we got together, and I told him, I'm thinking about going there just to talk with an agent and kind of look around. And he's like, well, you know, my work is setting me up with a place. So if you need to crash in my spare room for even a couple of weeks, you can do that. And I thought, wow, that would be really great to help transition there if I was apartment hunting or whatever. And then my roommate in Kansas City also was like, hey, you know, I'm sorry to spring this on you, but if it's cool with you, then in like a week or so, I'll be moving into a house in a different area. And I was like, yeah, that's...
Was that still Tozen? Or...
That was Seth Mackey, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was moving in with Ben Oxer and Brian Luther. Yeah,
I know Seth.
Yeah, it's the dude Friend Dog Studios. So I was like, dude, that's the perfect situation.
Yeah.
You guys should be living together so you can just, you know,
it works
brainstorm.
So well for all of them. Yeah. I helped them film episode 2 or 3 of their of the web series Friend Dog.
Awesome.
Yeah. Dog and Friend Dog.
Yeah. So cool.
They're great guys.
Yeah, everybody check them out. You know, shameless plug. For Friend Dog. But yeah, I was like, dude, that makes sense. Go, you know, that's perfect for you. And then, you know, there's a lot of things that I cared about in Kansas City, and in a way I was kind of wanted to stay. But at the same time, I just knew like, hey, I just got to push myself, and it's uncomfortable for me, but that doesn't matter. Like I've got to put my career over even myself. And
it's probably it being uncomfortable. I've kind of like, in a weird way, learned that usually means it's either completely wrong or totally right. You know what I mean? Like,
either you shouldn't be there or it's your chance to grow.
Yeah. You know? Because like if you're still comfortable all the time, especially in like a creative industry, like you're not growing. You just use the perfect word. Yeah. You're not progressing in any way. If you're just like, oh, I'm comfortable, I can stay here.
Yeah. And that's the amazing thing about Kansas City is it's a great place that you can be comfortable and make awesome art and meet really great professionals and artists and creatives. And if that's what somebody wants, then this is like one of the best places I can imagine to do it. Yeah. But I just knew, I was like, I feel like there's something more something different, I should say, that I should be aspiring to. And, you know, worst case scenario, if I move back, what an awesome thing to do. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I would not at all be sad to move back to Kansas City, man.
That's a great way to look at it. Because once again, look at your great outlook on life. Jeez, you're so good at looking at life positively. Because like a lot of people, I think, would have looked at that and been like, well, if I go out there and then move back, that's like a failure. But you're like, no, what an awesome thing to do. Like to have done this adventure and then come back to a great place. Like,
well, in the
you're just so damn positive.
Well, I've thought about it a lot, you know, and I've weighed the pros and cons and had many times where that fear was in my head, especially. I feel like I really changed as a person around 2008 or 9 as I started to discover film. Because at the time I was very comfortable in my 9-to-5 job and I had a certain life plan. And I loved it there, and my coworkers there were great and everything, so I'm never going to talk crap on them. Some people are like, so glad I got out of the 9-to-5. I mean, it was a great time of my life, but that was just a different me, you know?
I've quit a lot of great jobs to do filmmaking.
Yeah, you have to.
Like, I loved all the jobs I had, but I didn't want to stay there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what it was, because I had something more important to be doing, and that was filmmaking.
Yeah.
People were great, place was great, just wasn't where I needed to be.
Right. And I'm very fortunate that a lot of my coworkers there were so supportive. I mean, I'm sure that they all were kind of like, oh yeah, you want to go be an actor. That's ridiculous, which I wouldn't blame them a bit. But nobody said that to me, and everybody was like, yeah, you should try this now.
So then where did that come from? Where did you getting into film come from? Were you always an actor?
No, not at all. Never in my life. Yeah.
What?
It was very strange. And I was a pretty shy kid also until about junior year, when I was like, okay, let's make myself uncomfortable because this needs to stop. Like, I don't mind being shy if that's my personality, but there are things I know I want to do that I'm not doing just because I'm afraid, basically.
Oh, wow.
So I got to force myself to get out there and be more social. And I'm still introverted at heart.
You didn't do theater in high
no
school?
No theater, nothing. In fact, I didn't.
Were you in the AV group making? Okay.
Nothing. Yeah.
You're an anomaly, by the way. Like, I've done 40 plus of these. Almost all of them were like, yeah, I was kind of into it. I like this. I like that you're different. I'm
definitely different, man. We won't go into all the reasons why, but yeah, it's funny because my family didn't even watch that many movies growing up. Yeah. We saw some. We had some family favorites for sure that we watched. But then actually it was one of my ex-girlfriends, her family was super into movies. Like, that's what they did as a family, which I thought at first my brain was kind of trained well, you don't necessarily sit in front of a TV and waste a couple hours of your day if there's something else to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, how interesting. But her mom said it really, really well. I thought she was like, well, this is, of course I never said that to them or anything, but she just explained it anyway. She's like, yeah, this is kind of what we do as family, and we all sit down and do this together. And I thought, that's awesome, because through no fault of anybody's, everyone's just so busy now that people rarely get the chance to sit down as a family
together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I all of a sudden I realized it doesn't really matter what you're doing. If you're all together and enjoying what you're doing and enjoying each other, then that's great. So we watched a lot of movies, and the more I watched them, the more I was like, oh, this is really fascinating. And it did remind me that when I was, I forget how old, but I was young and Lord of the Rings came out. Being a gigantic fan of the books, when I first saw that, I was like, wow, this is what movies are. The other movies are great, but this is filmmaking. Yeah. I can see now what you can accomplish with equipment and tools. People. And yeah. And I, got the extended edition and watched all the behind the scenes stuff. And I was struck by how much I love the concept of the camaraderie of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And it was more so on that film because everyone was together for a year, making 3 massive features back to back
in a country that most of them had never been in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were just family.
Yeah.
But so I knew not everything was like that, but I was struck by how interesting that was. And looking at the actors, I was like, that's very cool. I could kind of almost get into that, but the thought just never even went through my head more than that. Cause I was like, well, I'm in Kansas, so that I'm not in LA or New York, so that's not going to happen. And it wasn't until I saw a casting call for an independent film when I was working that 9-to-5 job, and it's like, interesting, independent film. So people get together and make films, basically, with
was
whatever they can.
Was it a film being made in KC or in Topeka?
In KC.
Oh, wow.
In KC, yeah. And so I was like, well, again, at the time, I wasn't so good about pushing myself to do things that made me uncomfortable. I was like, I should at least go check this out. I'll go to this audition and just
Where'd you
really
see the
try.
casting call? I'm just so intrigued.
I think it was on Craigslist, actually.
Really?
Before Craigslist became even seedier. But there was a lot of just independent film castings that were somewhat legit. And there's just, Facebook wasn't such a big thing at the time. So there's really not a lot of ways to get the word out. So a lot of people put it on Craigslist.
Lolo, my wife, she started filmmaking besides her own YouTube channel that she was doing, and just as a kid she was filmmaking the whole time. But
Awesome.
To get on real sets, she would look on Craigslist and she would find makeup jobs or hair jobs, anything that they'd be like, oh, we can let a 16-year-old girl do makeup on this feature film.
That's
and
awesome.
she just started getting on sets because they needed someone to do makeup, and she found it on Craigslist.
It's really smart, too,
Yeah.
just to get your way on set and kind of see what it's
she was
all
like,
about.
I just want to be on a set and see what it's all about. No one's going to hire me to run a camera. No one's going to hire me to do all these jobs. But people are going to be like, oh, she does her own makeup, so she can do makeup in an indie sets. That's such the mentality.
Yeah. Have you ever done makeup on anyone? Yes. Okay, you're hired.
You're
Like,
hired. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That's a really great approach. And that's what, I won't get too much into it, but I try to really push people if they're interested in the industry to say, hey, just try to get on a set.
Get on a
Just
set.
be a PA,
Yeah.
whatever. You'll see how it works and you'll know pretty quickly if you're into it or not,
Yeah.
And that was kind of my goal with this audition. I was like, well, I'm gonna be terrible, but I gotta at least do it just because it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
It could be a fun hobby. And then uh,
And then your hobby took over your life.
it really did. Sometimes they do. I still remember I tried to back out. Even then, I was
Yeah?
because I just thought, well, first he wants to have a meeting with some people. He asked me if I'd be interested in helping produce, and I was like, sure. Like, I don't know what that entails, but again, I could learn.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, well, we're all going to get together here at the Starbucks in Kansas City. I wish I remembered which Starbucks. I might be able to find it buried in my
Buried in your
my
email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, cool, I'll be there. And then like the night before, I was just thinking, man, I'm sure that this is all people that have been filmmakers for life. I'm going to come in there and be an idiot and have nothing to bring to the table.
Yeah, and they're not going to want me.
Right.
And,
Like, they'll be like, oh, God, we got to drag this dead weight along, which they still had to do. But so I called him from the break room at my 9 to 5. I remember that. I was like, hey, man, I feel like you guys probably have this covered and it's maybe not a good idea. And he just said, hey, just come. Just come and let's talk about it. And you decide then what you think. It's like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I should just stop being so afraid and show up,
Yeah.
And it was a great meeting, and we ended up doing the audition for the lead role, which I didn't get, but I got like a good supporting role in it, and I was able to just kind of
When was
produce.
this?
That was back in, I think it was 2007 or so.
Okay.
And then, we made that, and we made some other short films, and I helped produce and learned a lot from him. His name's Rich. I mean, we used to be really great friends. Life kind of threw us a little bit of a curveball, I guess, but
It does that sometimes.
Yeah,
Life
true.
is interesting.
Yeah, and I'm glad at least that there was no like big blow up
Yeah.
or anything that killed the friendship. It's just we just don't really talk anymore, which is kind of weird. But maybe it's one of those things that I should try to reach out and do something about. But we'll see. We're not gonna have a whole Louis C.K. Mark Maron moment here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's how I first got into it though. Just kind of came across that, got on a set, and yeah, the more I was just doing films on the weekends, it's like this is not just a hobby, I don't think. Like all of a sudden my job that I used to be really into, actually, I was a video editor and did a little bit of like a tiny bit of Photoshop and Illustrator and all that. So
Okay,
it was
so
creative.
you
in a way.
kind of had a odd filmmaking background of like video editing and photo, like that's all.
Yeah, it was more like it was for the company Jostens, and so we're doing more like slideshows for schools, pictures, video.
They made this ring.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jostens is the ring company. Almost everyone knows them.
Yep.
So it wasn't like I wasn't doing films or anything, but yeah, as I was starting to get into editing, I was like, oh, okay, this is opening up or reopening up creative parts of my mind that I had kind of been blocked since I'd put away drawing in my spare time. And I just gotten locked into this 9 to 5 mindset, which again is great for people that are built that way, but I am not built that way at all.
Yeah.
I thought that it was going really well and everything, but then once I started getting into acting, I was like, man, all of a sudden, I worked a 21-hour day one time on set, and was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm tired, don't get me wrong, but this is so awesome. And then going back to work and working like a 8-hour and 10-minute day, I'm like, 10 minutes of overtime. Can't I just go home already? Come on, like. So that was a good sign that, hey, this is something I should try to pursue. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, I mean, don't totally reboot your life in a way to do something so frivolous to them, like, oh, you want to be an actor? I mean, everyone's doing that, and you're going to do that for a year and then come back. But I was like, I can't explain to you guys how important it is, but I can tell that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So it's not just me going, oh, I might kind of like to do this, having a little 20s crisis, as we all do, It was like, this is something that I'm serious about, and the friends that supported me and were like, yeah, we got your back, they're still in my life today, and the ones that really didn't or whatever, they're not, and that's fine. We just are on our different paths now.
Yeah.
But
so 2007, that's before my time of being in film in KC. Mm-hmm. What was the film scene like in 2007 in Kansas City?
I mean, there wasn't a ton.
Because like nowadays, it's like I feel like it's kind of booming in a small way.
I think so too.
It's really building, and there's a lot of great people that are still creating stuff here. And
Yeah. I guess really it was more like 2009, just because, we tried to make that film and things would fall through. And so occasionally we did like one short in 2017 and one in 2018. And then 2009,
So
I don't know why I said
2007,
2018.
2008.
That was when we were trying to plan it and make it happen, and then 2009 was when I actually did my first short.
Okay.
But yeah, at the time, everybody was still kind of limited by gear. Like DSLRs were around, but they were also pretty expensive. So it was a lot of people just shooting on T2Is, whatever they could get their hands on. And really, like I said, you kind of check Craigslist, and half those projects would just fall through.
Yeah.
The Independent Film Coalition was around, as it still is now. Check them out. Shameless plug number 2. And they were doing some film competitions, things like that.
They do a lot of the 48, One Night Stand, a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. And so I know a couple of the shorts that I did were as a part of that. You could meet people and kind of get together and just work on stuff, but there weren't like a lot of features being made or anything, and the gear was, like I said, still pretty limited as far as what people could get their hands on. So it's been awesome just to see kind of the boom, like you talked about, and a lot of the people that kind of helped bring it along and raise the level of quality too.
Yeah.
Obviously we're not all trying to win, best cinematography Oscars or anything. We do what we can with what we have.
Yeah.
But in some cases it was like, well, if we do it this way, then it's going to be so much better if we take this time and plan it out and everything. And I think that really shows now. There's a ton of talented DPs and crew and cast now in Kansas City, and all we need is the tax credits.
Yeah, that is true. So at what point then did you get your first agent? When did you decide, like, did you do that before you quit the job, or was that?
I did.
Okay.
That was part
That's part of what helped you quit the job.
Right.
Okay, that
exactly.
makes sense.
I think it was only just before I quit. It was, I don't know, maybe 4 months or so. And, but I got, sent out for a couple of commercials and got booked a couple of those.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, even working as an extra at times, I was like, this is, not mad money, of course, but I can see that I am making money doing this. My dad has his own remodeling company too. So I was like, if I ever need to, I can come back to Topeka for a week, crash from my, brother's house or my parents' house and help my dad. Like, it's not a big deal. Money won't be. I kind of estimated that because it got pretty lean here and there, but I still think it was a pretty great decision overall.
Yeah. So. And then, so you just were in it full time.
Yeah. And I did a lot of crew work, kind of similar to what you're saying your wife was doing as well, Lolo. It's like, well, I don't need to just be a full-time actor, and that is difficult in Kansas City even today.
Yeah.
But I can learn more about this industry, just by being on set and be paid to do it also that way,
True. I mean, that's how I took it with, I started in theater because I didn't think film was an option, because I had the same thought. I'm in Kansas City.
Right.
Like,
right.
there's no, I didn't know film existed. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know independent film. I didn't know. So I had the same thought as I wanted to be a director, maybe an actor. I didn't know really.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn everything. So like I took lighting classes. I took sound classes because I just wanted to be able to, if I'm a director, I want to be able to talk to crew members. And if I'm an actor, I want to know what they're saying. Like, I don't want to be like the dumb guy that's like, I'll just say the words, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like,
will you go stand on your 2? Yeah. What are you talking about though? Like,
yeah. Yeah. When they yell "going dark," I want to know the lights are going out. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something again that I really try to tell people that are just starting and maybe reach out for advice, or sometimes I'll teach a film acting workshop in Kansas City when I'm back.
Yeah.
Really, I've only done it here because I care a lot about Kansas City actors, and so I want to give them as much information as I can. I might try to do it in New Mexico also, but one of the things that I say is just learn as much as possible. And you don't have to do what I did, where I pretty much worked every job at least once, other than DP and like first AC, like Focus or anything like that. But I wasn't paid to do that on sets. Mainly I was either PA or something else. But on indie sets, I learned how to slate. I learned how to run sound even, which is very, very stressful. But as an actor now, I know what they need and I know what they're going through. So I think it's just important. That way you never take somebody else's job for granted, Yeah,
I really feel like being the sound guy is the worst. Like,
it's tough.
They're like,
man.
Oh my God. Those
really
people,
is.
the good sound people are just incredible, and I feel like they're so underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you watch the movie, no one's like, I could hear that line of dialogue.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
But they would know if it was bad sound.
yeah,
That's for
they
sure.
know if it's bad sound,
Mm-hmm.
and like I feel like even on set sometimes, I've been on a handful of sets where like you can tell that they care about the actor because like they're the actor, they're the star, it's all about them, and they care about how the camera's set up, and they're like, and now figure it out sound.
Right.
Like,
right. Oh yeah, you can't stand anywhere actually because you'll be in the shot. Like,
yeah. Well, the shot is this wide, and there are lights everywhere, so you'll cast a shadow. You can't be anywhere, but it needs to be good.
right.
Like, don't get bad
Make
sound.
it happen.
Yeah.
That's totally true. And I think they're definitely underappreciated because they can almost always make it work regardless of the situation you put them in, you know? And that's, fortunately, the waiting on sound thing is mostly a joke now that directors know already. Well, I can't really say that because it would piss them off. I'm just going to say it because it's funny and we'll all laugh about it. But, I mean, back in the day, or still sometimes people that just, I guess, have no appreciation for them will do the whole, like, all right, waiting on sound whenever you're ready kind of a thing. Like, man, you guys, now after you lit for 2 hours, you're trying to rush him and he's trying to get ready and 2 minutes and he can't have that. Like,
and I've been on sets where I've seen like take went great, camera's like, oh, we killed it, let's move on, and then the sound guy's just like, no, but
there were airplanes the entire time.
Yeah, like I heard the lawnmower and this beeped and like, can we do one more?
Right.
And everyone's like, sound.
Yeah, right.
Like it's his fault that like the world was happening around. Like
you didn't stop the whole world for that take.
Yeah.
Wow.
God's sound, jeez.
That's crazy.
But I know you've done everything. Is acting though, like obviously it's your like main focus, but is writing and directing something that you're still doing, and where did it come out of necessity? Did it come out of like the best way to get a good reel is to, I've always heard that like if you want to be in something, make your own thing. As a young actor. Yeah,
I can.
Is that where that started, or
not so much, but that's definitely a factor also. You know, if you want to be in something, make your own thing. You know, don't wait for the work, go make it. You know, a lot of those kind of cliche things, but you know, they're cliches because they're true.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that a lot of actors do it that way. For me, I was really just out trying to attack it, and I felt like I was behind, you know, the 8 ball, and I was behind everybody else because I had no experience and was learning this for the first time.
Because you weren't doing it in high school, and you didn't do it in college.
Yeah, and I had no connections in Kansas City when I moved there other than the few people that I knew. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go out and work harder than everybody, at least in my mind, and really try to, you know, go to every single audition, even if I feel like it's a stretch for the part, whatever. So I was really busy just doing that. And then there was a moment where I was like, a friend of mine wrote this little short script that I think is very interesting, and as I read it, I get kind of images in my mind, as a director might, and I thought that would be interesting to try and tackle that also. And like I said, I'd done some producing and some other things, so I had kind of a handle on, okay, this is what we would need to make it, and this is what the director will need to do. So I thought I should try this, and I did it, and I really enjoyed it, and then it kind of became a thing of, you know, all the auditions were great. Sometimes it was more commercial than any film, though. And I couldn't even find that many film opportunities at times. And so I was like, well...
Especially in Kansas City.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, commercials are fine and they help to pay the bills, but that's not why I'm doing this, you know? And so I was like, well, if no one's telling stories that I'm interested in telling, even if it's a short one, then I should just do it myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I'm right for the part, certainly, then I should have a role in it, whether that's lead or supporting or whatever. I didn't really care about that.
Yeah.
But typically, I was kind of right for a part in it because I'm writing from my own experience. You know, it's a 20-year-old white dude. So I'm like, why not be in it? But there were some cases where I would direct a story that I really wanted to tell, and I didn't think I was the right fit for anything. So I didn't try to just shoehorn myself into the production because that wasn't the point for me.
Yeah.
But... yeah, I mean, I guess at first it did come from maybe not having enough opportunity and like I said before, really trying to push myself up to everybody else's level as quickly as possible. Just give myself as many opportunities as I could. But it's also, I mean, that's directing and producing is very stressful. It's a long process, and in a lot of cases, I was putting my own money into the film. Of course, I've never run a Kickstarter to fund a film. No problem at all with people that do. Obviously, that's just a fact. It's always been my own money, so that I had some limitations as far as how often I could make films.
Yeah. So you mentioned auditioning for everything you could audition for. So I'm really intrigued about is that how you still live your life? Is just like, I'm gonna audition for every role and I'll get a small amount of them, or are you selective in what you do, or how do you choose your projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, my agent has a lot of say now.
Yeah.
Just because as much as I love indie film and I will always do indie film, but still there are times that she's just like, no, you can't go to Kansas City and do this, especially if they're not going to make it SAG or whatever,
Yeah.
So she kind of has my schedule there, and I'm glad that she does. She's looking out for me, of course.
This is a dumb question. Because you obviously had a Kansas City agent first. Do you still have an agent in Kansas City and an agent in Albuquerque? Or
I do.
Do you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just figured, that's another question some people ask me before they move, and I figured, why not? Because a lot of times, I'm not going to be able to come back for the commercial audition anyway to Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I just kind of said, hey, I'd still like to be repped here. This is kind of the price point that the gig would need to reach, because otherwise I can't travel back and do the gig at cost.
Yeah.
But now that I'm union, there are kind of some, I guess the floor as far as the payment structure is a little higher.
Yeah.
So it's more likely that it will be worth my while. And I really haven't had that many opportunities. Exposure is great. That's the agency I'm with. Again, shameless plug. There are a lot of good ones in KC, though. And they give me whatever opportunities they can. But, just number one, union opportunities in Kansas City aren't super high. Number two, they know my situation. I always tell them if I'm going to be back in town. That way they know, okay, send them out for a few more things.
If he's in town, we might as well, yeah.
But it just so happened that this was, I think, 2.5 years ago or so. I was on just hopping in my car, like road tripping out from Albuquerque to Kansas, and I got an email from my agent saying, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in this or if you could even make it back, but Missouri Lotteries is casting this role, and they almost always will only cast residents, and this is the one time I've ever seen them say, we can cast it from anywhere. It's kind of a last second thing. And she's like, I think you fit this perfectly. Let me know if you're interested. And I was like, well, I'm actually on the way back to Kansas now, so yeah, go ahead and throw my name in my hat in the ring, I guess. And I ended up getting it, and it was a really fun shoot. It's one where I was supposedly the artist that was making like a school out of lottery tickets, and it was for a good cause too, because they were saying some message, which is great, and I already forgot it. But it was well worth it though, because it paid a decent union rate, and then they showed it for like a year and a half, and so residuals weren't crazy. It wasn't a national commercial, but still they piled up pretty well. And so I was like, man, I'm so thankful that I kept that agency, even if this is the only gig that I book. That's awesome. But I also know as more films come to Kansas City and tax incentives do hopefully get raised,
there's a lot of promise in that area right now.
I think so, and I would love nothing more than to come back and work in KC, so I kept my agent.
Okay, cool. I kind of derailed the first question.
Oh, that's totally fine.
I apologize for that.
You were asking like how I choose roles.
How you choose roles. Yeah. And I'll kind of go into why I asked the question.
Sure.
I asked the question because it goes back to that same Facebook thing we started with about like perception of myself. And so like I am oddly picky about the roles I choose, probably to a fault. I haven't decided yet. It might be a fault. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
Could be.
It's
either a fault or a strength.
If I die starving artist, it's to a fault. If I succeed, maybe it's to my success. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, or you die starving artist and cut your ear off, and everybody be like, wow, such brilliance. Too bad we didn't realize it and give him more roles before he starved to death.
Yeah, and they're like, we offered him roles. He just turned them down.
That's true. Too bad he wouldn't take the roles we offered him. He
wouldn't take them. Because like I'm oddly worried about like my the perception of me, because I feel like as an actor, especially nowadays in the way that actors are cast and dealt with in Hollywood, is they're like, this is their persona, this is what they've done, this is them forever. And so like I get oddly scared of being trapped in a thing, and so then I also like have in a weird way trap myself into something totally different.
Yeah. That's a tough catch-22 for real.
So that's why I asked the question of
Gotcha.
like, how do you like choose like, yeah, I'm gonna be the guy for the beginning scene of From Dusk Till Dawn who just got out of prison and is lying about having murdered his wife,
Right.
and I'm gonna viciously murder this woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, seriously. I mean, there's a phrase that I always try to remind myself, and I say it pretty frequently, and it's that I'd rather be typecast than not cast. And I do think there's a lot of truth to that because, you know, in the end, I want to create art and I also would like to eat.
yeah,
So it helps to, you know, be paid to do that. And if that means that I'm kind of typecast into something, then there's some pretty amazing careers that are born out of somebody just doing the exact same thing over and over again, you know?
yes,
Maybe they're not such amazing careers, but they're strong careers, like long-lasting careers at least. So I'm
Yeah.
like, would that be something I'm okay with? I think that it would. I prefer being a character actor to have a much wider range of things.
yeah,
But yeah, it's very difficult. There have been a few that I've turned down. For the most part, I'm like, okay, that's something I could see myself in, or oh, that character I don't understand anything about, but I would love to try to get into the psychology
Yeah.
of someone's mind like that, you know?
yeah,
Because that also really interests me, is just trying to understand this character, which I think helps me in real life. Then when people are just saying or doing absurd things, I'm like, well, let me try to at least understand
What
one
if
thing
I
about
was?
it.
Yeah, what if I
Yeah.
was in their shoes? How could
Right.
I?
Yeah, at least I
view
can kind
it?
of identify a little then.
Yeah.
But there have been some roles that I've turned down just because I'm like, hey, that's just subject material that either I don't think needs to be made, you know, which is only my opinion,
Yeah.
or maybe it does need to be made, but I'm not comfortable.
I'm not the guy to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
I'm not comfortable, yeah, being the vessel for that scene, really.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like the From Dusk Till Dawn character was a little bit like I was trying to decide at the time, do I want to do this? They didn't really say like how graphic or anything this
Yeah.
scene was gonna be, but I was like, obviously I don't espouse killing anybody, whether it's
Yeah.
a spouse or you know just some person off the street. But
I don't think it's. I have no problem with the scene you did.
no,
either.
sure.
There's
But
just-
some people
there's
like
just some people.
a few of my friends are like, yeah, I saw it. That was, you know, that was good. But I just, you know, I got to say, you got what you deserved at the end. And I was like, obviously, the dude was a murderer.
Yeah, he's a
like,
bad person.
Yeah, just because I took the role doesn't mean I, you know,
Yeah.
sign off on everything that they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important distinction to make. I saw Vincent D'Onofrio was asking for people's input on Twitter maybe 2 months ago about whether or not he should take this role as I'm assuming a violently racist character. And I understand that, especially kind of in the
Well, yeah, like
the
with
day and
Topher
age that we're in.
Grace in Black Klansman, like that had to have
I
been
still haven't
such.
seen it.
Oh
I
my
really, I know, I'm
God.
dying to. Like, I've got to see it.
Yeah, but like that's a role that like it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna be the leader of the KKK.
Yeah,
Like that's a role.
that would be very difficult.
And like I've heard him talk on it and talk about how like he probably wouldn't have accepted that role had it not been Spike Lee.
Yeah,
Like and I get that, and like
that helps a
that's-
lot. Is who is making this
Yeah.
this piece?
Because like here
what
in Kansas
perspective is it
City,
coming from?
there's a lot of horror being made,
Mhm.
and so there are a lot of times where I'm like, I don't know if that's or this person, like you know what I mean. And that feels so like I'm not like I don't feel like I'm above them, but
No.
like I don't want to be the rapist in your piece
Right.
in the indie film made in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But if Spike Lee or Quentin Tarantino hired me and was like, "Will you play the rapist in this piece?" I would think a little longer. I
Yeah.
still might say no because that's a subject matter I really don't like to be a piece
Oof.
of. But like,
Yeah.
and the same with like the racism in like Black Klansman or like Vincent D'Onofrio's character.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I assume I'll be offered something like that at some point. We'll have a very difficult choice. I think, you know, you really got to obviously separate out, hey, this is a character.
Yeah.
And if it's, I know that everyone's art is important to them, but kind of to your point, if it's a small market and someone kind of just wants to make a short film to make it on the weekend, that is amazing and awesome and they should do it. But do I want to like be the face in of such a
Yeah.
negative character? My answer would be no.
yeah.
Now, is it a movie that's telling a hopefully an important story, hopefully taking a very critical look
Yeah.
at like something that is wrong and how we can right it, And is it going to then not just sit like in somebody's basement? Is it actually going to go out and hopefully make a difference maybe to a few people because it's released, you know, whether it's in theaters or streaming or whatever?
Yeah.
Then that's something that I can more get behind. And it's still, there's some things that are just very unsavory, but I mean, obviously someone's got to play that part.
That's even like something that I had a role I just turned down recently, and I felt bad because I think the people that were making it, they're probably good people. But I read the whole script, and my problem is that the person I was going to be cast as is one of the leads, and his behavior is awful. And it's not, it doesn't feel like in the script, at least it's shown as a bad thing.
Gotcha.
That his behavior is awful. And I was like, I think that might be the line for me right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if he, at the end, they'd be like, oh, he's a terrible person, so he gets all this terrible stuff. Or like,
right.
he gets some sort of comeuppance, or he learns a lesson that like, oh, I should not be a terrible person. But
that's different then, yeah.
That's different. Right. But if it feels like it's glorifying these terrible actions, I was like,
say.
I don't think I can.
Yeah. I think that is the main decider for me is the glorification of it.
Yeah.
You know, what are we saying with the story? And also, you know, a story like Black Klansman, to me, it would make a huge difference that Spike Lee is directing it.
Yeah.
You know, I just think, I guess I'm going to kind of go into this bunny trail, but I'm not going to launch into all my thoughts on it. But, so Green Book.
Yeah.
You know, there's big outrage over winning the Academy Awards and everything.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't? Okay. I'll try not to spoil it then with my hot take here.
I mean, I've heard a lot of opinions.
Oh, yeah. Everyone would tell you their opinion. I actually watched it.
I have it in the library right now. I'm going to watch it soon. So it's on the list of stuff to watch.
I watched it because I'm not big on just reading articles and being like, okay, yes, I understand this whole thing.
That's
I'm
why
like,
I feel like I need to
for
see
yourself,
it.
So that's hard to say.
Yep.
They might be right, but how can you say?
Yeah.
You only read it, you know?
Yep.
And I don't trust anything online. So everyone was mad that it won Best Picture.
Yep.
I don't think it should have won Best Picture, but not for the same reasons. I don't think it should have won Best Picture because I didn't think it was a great movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was basically a few steps short of a Lifetime story elevated by great actors.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali was amazing, and Viggo Mortensen was amazing as well. And also, I just totally blanked on her name. Girl from Freaks.
The girls from Freaks.
Yeah, Linda Cardellini.
Cardellini, I think.
She didn't have as much to do, but she was good in what she did for sure. I just thought it's not a movie that should be glorified as like, wow, this has such a unique perspective on racial tension.
Yeah.
Or, oh, this is so incisive, you know, everyone's got to see it and it's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
It's
this is
not
a movie
that
that fixes racism.
Right. It certainly is not that. And so if anyone said it was, I think that they should be ashamed of themselves, you know. But I do think that it's a fairly solid movie, thanks to the actors especially, that kind of highlights, hey, there are differences out there. You need to be aware of them, and there's nothing wrong with having your eyes open to it. There's a little bit of a like, oh, well, let's just all be friends then at the end of the movie. And that, of course, also is not realistic. That's not a realistic fix for all racism, and everyone should know that too. But in the end, a lot of people were mad that the movie was from Viggo's perspective, kind of. They're like, you're going to make a movie about an African-American, piano player, and then make it all about the white guy. I was like, well, I completely disagree. I think the movie was about the white guy, and it just happened to also feature this spectacular African-American piano player, because it's made by the son of the white driver.
Guy. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's clearly going to be from his perspective.
Yeah.
Because he's his son. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that it's a negative thing that it does at times focus more on Viggo. I thought there were some stupid, totally cliche moments that were just unnecessary. The fried chicken thing and everything else.
Looks like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, and it basically is like. But I also thought that it wasn't glorifying Viggo's character at all. Like, it says right off the top that he was pretty unabashedly racist, and the guy's father admitted that at the time too, that he was racist before he took that job, and then learned a lot from Dr. Shirley. And throughout the movie, a lot of people are like, well, it's a white savior film. I get that that's not always literally said, but honestly, like, almost all of the saving in that movie was done by Dr. Shirley.
Yeah.
Like, he helped to correct this man. He showed him how he was wrong. He helped kind of bring him out of the gutter a little bit. Like, hey, why are you doing this? If you have an opportunity, you should be capitalizing. It's important for your life. He helped him communicate better with his wife. He showed him how he was wrong in a lot of views.
Yeah.
And in the end, I got off on this whole thing because I would almost be offended if this, I don't remember the guy's name, but the director of the film, if this white director who is the son of the driver felt that made him qualified to tell this brilliant biographical story of Dr. Shirley, an African-American piano player who had all of these experiences when racial tension was even obviously, I mean, different. Everything was, it was so, I mean, it's still there, but when things were, so extreme and life and death all the time. And also, I mean, I could never find that this was confirmed, but it's supported by the movie, at least, that most likely Dr. Shirley was homosexual too. So should the straight white Italian guy be even trying to make that story? Yeah. It seemed like everyone was really mad that it wasn't that story. I was like, if he had tried to make it, I think you'd be just as mad that he'd made that story. Right. And I don't think you can't really bar someone from making a movie. Like, if a white dude wants to make that story, okay, I hope that they do everything in their power to try to make it as good as possible. Yeah. But I don't want to see that story from his perspective. I want to see it from someone who can relate more, who has some kind of commonality, with subject matter. And I got off on that because of Black Klansman, where if I was Topher Grace and weighing a role, it's like, okay, who's directing this? Yeah. Like, Spike Lee, has something insightful to say about the subject. Yeah. It's not some white guy being like, well, let's make a story about this Black Klansman. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, that's fine. Again, you can't ban people from doing stuff, but it's just very interesting. And that definitely plays a factor in roles I choose also. It's like, who's telling the story? Yeah. And what is it glorifying, for sure. Yeah.
I think that was an interesting thing that you just touched on, though, too, is that, like, I think one of the beautiful things about filmmaking is that you can tell it from any perspective. Mm-hmm. And there are all these perspectives, and everyone does have their own life story and journey and perspective, and we get to tell aspects of those. Mm-hmm. And, like, each movie isn't going to tell everyone's perspective of everything. Sure. So, like, hopefully maybe someday someone will make a movie about Dr. Shirley, and that'll be great too. And it doesn't take away from the other movie's perspective.
Right. This one is more so about the driver's perspective. Yeah. But obviously a huge part of it is Dr. Shirley, because it's about that trip. And all the things that he did to correct this ignorant racist. Yeah. Is what the truth of it is. But I would love to see a story about Dr. Shirley's life, and then, this trip is a big part of it too, but it could be just a footnote. That's not his whole life. I would love to see that story. But hopefully, and I was going to post some of that on Facebook. I was like, do I even want to get into it? But that was going to be one of my thoughts, is hopefully out of all this quote unquote outrage, someone's like, I'm going to do this right.
I'm going to make this movie.
Yeah. Let's see it in 2 years. That'd be great. But
well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask how incredibly cool it was working with Vincent D'Onofrio on The Kid. Like, what was that experience even like?
Man, he was amazing. I've worked with a lot of great directors, a lot of them in Kansas City. Like, I felt like they valued my work and they were very talented and everything. But and I've also worked with a lot of quote unquote actors, directors who have, they've taken acting classes to help communicate better with actors, and they really try to involve them in the collaboration. Yeah. And that's important. But obviously Vincent D'Onofrio is kind of like quote unquote an actor's actor. And then on top of that, now he's an actor's director. So.
That's how I describe, like, Lolo's gonna hate me for saying this. Lolo is the worst at remembering actors. Yeah. Like, we could watch a movie and then the next movie we watch is the same, like, actor, and I will have to connect that for, like, it's mostly like a face blindness, I think. I think she's got whatever that face blindness thing is. Mm-hmm. I think she's got it because she does not recognize people. So, like, every time I have to, like, explain Vincent D'Onofrio to her, I'm like, he's an actor that every actor loves. Yeah, like, That's Vincent D'Onofrio.
Right, right. Well, and, you're not going to recognize him from Men in Black, so that doesn't help. But
true.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I'll tell a couple stories. I don't know how much time you have. I've got as much time as you do, but you can cut that out. Me asking about how much time's left.
No, it's good.
But I remember I did the audition and felt really good about it. And so when I got a call back, I actually wasn't surprised because I felt like it seemed like this role might be
Yeah.
right for me
I
now.
love those auditions.
Right?
Those are the best auditions. They
Yep.
don't happen often, but when
Right.
they do, it's great.
And it really is terrible then when you don't get the part. It's like, no, I actually kind of thought it was mine this time. But
Yeah.
But this one I got the call back. I was like, okay, cool. And they gave a new part of the script, so I worked really hard on that and showed up. And at least they did say in the email, hey, Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be in the room. So we just don't want that to throw anybody off for you to like show up
Yeah.
and see that. I was like, that's very considerate. Thank you. Like, so I felt pretty
He'll
decent.
be in the room. Don't fangirl.
Right?
Don't
Yeah. Try not to.
Yeah.
If you like bow down in front of him, you are just going to get kicked right out of the room. Like, but I show up, sign in, kind of collect myself, sit down, start getting into my little method thing that I do in auditions to get my mind right. And then the casting director walks up and she's like, okay, just so you know that script's like, yeah, I got it. She's like, yeah, okay, we're not doing that at all. We're just doing, you're going to do improv acting exercises with Vincent, okay? And before I could really even say anything, she turned around and went back into the room. And I was like, okay, I mean... That sounds amazing. It also sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, especially to find that out right before going in the room. But yeah.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. But I went into the room. He's a very big guy, which just adds to the intimidation.
Yeah. I mean, he's Kingpin.
Right? And it's not because they did camera tricks. It's because he's actually quite big.
Big.
Yeah. Yeah, but he was super just kind and genuine. And I don't know if he's just being nice. He's like, you look very familiar. Have I seen you in anything? And I didn't want to say, no, you haven't. But I was like, you probably just one of those, you might have, or maybe just, one of those faces.
Yeah.
Let's just get into it.
You didn't want to start asking, like, have you seen
Right.
the Godless?
Well, and that hadn't even come out at the time. So I was like, I couldn't really
yeah.
say that. I could have been like, oh, from Dusk Till Dawn. I had this one quick scene, but I was just like, hey, maybe you have. Let his imagination do the work,
Yeah.
And so then we sat down.
It's a very skillful way to handle that.
Yeah, I always kind of feel like let other people's imagination do the work for you without obviously straight up lying. If I'm directly asked, then I'll just answer. But,
but no, that was a great way to do that.
Yeah, and also, like you said, I didn't want to be like, well, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And have them say, no. Okay, I guess you haven't seen me then. Now that I've destroyed the chemistry of the room,
let's
audition.
Break it down.
Right? So we sat down, and he was like, so Chris, after this session, when you walk out of here, you can decide that I'm completely full of shit if you want. But for now, I'm just gonna ask you to take me, at my word, and when I ask you to do things, you'll do them. All right? Is that fine with you? I said, that's totally fine. He's like, okay. And he's a big method actor in a way. I mean, he has his own method, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we did was more emotion based than anything. It was like, I want you to picture this scene from your childhood, basically, and I want you to really, picture that happening. You close your eyes, and then when you're ready, I want you to say this line. And then he just had me kind of repeat that 4 or 5 times and say, okay, now picture this is happening instead. And now open your eyes and do that, and then he'd just be like, yeah, this is great because you can't see it, but I can see that the emotion that I need is coming over your face just because you're picturing this, even though it has nothing to do with it. It wasn't like, okay, this is a breakup scene, so picture your breakup. That would work for a lot of people, but it's
just the right emotion from this moment in your life.
And that's how he acts, is he finds something to, as far as, I don't want to speak for him, but from what I understand is he finds that emotion, however disconnected it might seem, and if he feels like that actually fits the moment, then he kind of like ties it all into that, which is very cool. But yeah, we just did that a couple of times, and then at the end of it, he said, well, that's everything. And he said, Chris, you're a very fine actor. Thank you for taking the time, basically. And I was like, okay, obviously he most likely says that to everyone.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to say it to anyone.
Yeah.
So that just shows, again, how kind he is and how much consideration he has for the actor, because he knows what we have to go through in audition rooms,
Yeah.
So that was super refreshing.
He's done it. He's been through it.
Been through it so many times himself. And that's... I have mad respect for directors too, that haven't done a bit of acting in their life. They, a lot of times, I feel like are better directors than actor directors. Like Clint Eastwood makes good movies, but I'd rather watch Scorsese, even he's acted some. But I still think that's one really great thing that you find with acting actor directors, quote unquote, is they have that empathy for you because they've been exactly where you have.
Yeah.
Like directors and producers, they know what they're putting you through,
They
and if they're
understand that
kind, they're at
it's-
least nice, you know.
Yeah.
But they haven't actually had to go through that, or at least not as many times as we have, you know.
Yeah.
And there's several times on set where he would do that. I know there's a scene in the movie where the character's wife, Charlie Bowdre's wife, Manuela, is really, really distressed over something. No spoilers. Oh yeah, watch The Kid. There, third shameless
Yeah,
plug.
exactly.
So she's really, really distraught over something, and we did it on 5 takes or whatever, and then she was wrapped, and Vincent came over and was like, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much. You know, I really appreciate that you would do that for me, go through all that extreme emotion and everything." And I was just like, man, most directors, you know, they'll thank you and they'll be nice, and that's great. But most of them don't come over and really like thank you for pouring your heart out to them. But that's what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
So it was great. He was amazing. He was very kind to everybody on set, really. He kept things moving. Like if they were running behind, then he would kind of raise his voice and, you know, kingpin a little bit, not to be mean or anything, but just to keep everything going along. But yeah, it's one of the most generous and genuine and kind directors I've ever worked with, I think.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Normally, I ask people like what they're doing next. Like this would be that segue, but like I don't know how. Like, do you have anything you can talk about that like you're doing next, or like because I know you do a lot of cool shit, but like often you're like I can't tell you what the cool shit is.
Yeah,
it'll come out in a couple months.
Right, which is and I hate doing that because I'm like, okay, as an actor, my job, I have to have social media and I have to promote.
That's why I got Instagram.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Same.
And yeah, I think it's my favorite of the 3. In my mind, there's 3. There's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
That's the 3 that I even care to consider.
Yeah.
You know.
And I really wish I could cut Twitter out of my life.
Yeah, I think I can,
like
and so I might. I'm definitely on there the least, and I think I've grown to like Instagram the most also, because mostly it's just people sharing pictures of their day. And if you want to read, if they did a long caption, occasionally I'll do my long caption. Usually it's just 2 lines. So if somebody else is doing the same thing, if I want to read it, cool, I'll read it. If I don't, I'll just keep scrolling. Not a big deal. You know?
Exactly. That's how I feel about it too. And like Twitter, I actually just started Twitter. Because I was like, well, maybe I should. It seems like people do that. And like IX has a Twitter, which is our production company, IX Productions. And it does fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't do good. It does fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe Patrick Poe needs a Twitter because like I'm an actor and comedian and maybe he needs his own Twitter. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I could see it being useful for, you know, just especially tweeting out if there's just like a little bite-sized joke that came into your head. You know, put that out there. But at the same time, you don't want to just put out all your material that you might be wanting to work into your routines. You know?
I've kind of used it so far as like, if I have a thought that isn't even a joke yet, or if I have an experience that isn't a joke yet, I'm like, this weird thing. And but I'm at a point where starting Twitter myself, and like I have people on Facebook that I'm pretty sure are just friends with me because they're interested in what I'm doing. But like none of them want to port over to Twitter, and like so my Twitter there just is no following because there's no intrinsic following of like my friends have not followed me on Twitter because they're like, well, I've got it on Facebook and I've got it on Instagram. So I have like 20 people that I don't think I know, but like I don't know. Often I'm like, I don't know if these 20 people need to hear my thought even like.
I think it's just worth putting it out there though. Like if you decided that's how you want to run your feed, then I think just run it, and regardless of the likes or retweets or whatever, it's like, hey, this is the reason I have it, and this is what I'm doing. And anyone who wants to come along for the ride can come, and anyone who doesn't, that's fine.
Damn, you have such a good outlook.
Well, it's hard sometimes because I mean, same with you. I've got definitely more of a following, quote unquote, on Facebook, where it's not just friends and family, but also people that I've met, or even just people that I'm networking with and I haven't met in real life. But a lot of them, might I don't know. I don't even know numbers, but say that I posted a picture that got 70 likes or some crap like that on Facebook, and Instagram maybe be the same. But if I posted that photo on Twitter, which Twitter's not really the best platform to be posting photos anyway. But there, I mean, it might get 3. But it's not about the likes, it's sometimes I'm like, I could just cut this whole thing because there's only like 3 people even liking. So maybe there's only 3 people seeing it, but again, like for now, I think it's necessary for me to have it, and so I just kind of established the way I want to run it, and that's all that matters. You
Well,
know?
once again, you just have a great outlook. And I think that's probably like a big part that of what has led to like your success, honestly, because
Mm.
people want to work with people that are good to be around. Because being
Mm.
on a film set is so it's strenuous in a million ways.
Yeah,
And so if you can stack the deck in the least stresses possible,
sure.
it's going to be better.
Right.
So if you have nice outgoing people with a great outlook on life, like Chris Bylsma, it's going to be a better experience on set. Like,
I have heard that, especially for like series regulars, which I wouldn't know what that is, obviously. But I mean,
soon.
pretty much
It'll
it
happen
gets
soon.
down to it. It's like, well, okay, do we want to spend 3 months with you?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the deciding factor when they're down to like, okay, we really like these people. Like, is there
Who
anybody
do I
who
want to
might be a
spend
headache?
time
Like,
with? Yeah.
because otherwise, you can be a pain on set if you want, I guess, but only if you have an established career already.
Yeah.
Like if Tom Cruise, I don't honestly know what he's like on set at all, but if he decided to become a massive pain, if he's not already, Mission Impossible movies would make it work.
They would still
everybody
make the
just tiptoe
movie.
around Tom. We're gonna keep doing these until we can't make any money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Until
for me,
Tom's in a wheelchair, we're going to keep doing
yeah,
this.
right. Until he has bionic legs, which he
Yeah.
might already have. I'm not convinced he doesn't. With all the stunts he does, I'm like, how much of you is actually human at this point? I'm not sure, but
They've got the technology. They just haven't told us about it yet.
right.
They
Yeah.
started with Tom.
Yeah, exactly. Not a bad place to start, but I do feel like when I'm posting on social media, sometimes I feel like I'm not trying to be that whole like, oh, look at this, but I can't tell you or anything, because
Yeah.
that makes me think of the high school drama posting on Facebook, like,
Vague booking.
oh, something terrible just happened today. I'm so mad, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
inevitably I'll never be the one that enables it, but somebody will be like, oh, what happened? I'm just not even ready to talk about it yet. Then why did you post it in the first place? I mean,
Yeah.
that's just me. Again, whatever makes people happy, do it. That's not harming me to have to see that. It does a little, but
Just a little emotionally.
Right.
Just, yeah.
and so I hate like any semblance of that in the posts. But I've got to put pictures out there. I got to promote, and then
Yeah.
there's also the realistic.
It's an important piece of being an actor.
Yeah, but then an equally important thing is if you sign a non-disclosure agreement, then you better not say anything. you
Yeah.
know? Right now, I'm working on a feature in Kansas City that they're making here. I can't say a ton about it, but I get to play like an Irish character, which is great. I walked into.
How's your Irish accent?
It's not that great, but fortunately, he's American Irish, so it can be like a blend. Doesn't have to be full on Colin
I
Farrell.
just got cast in a Western I'm supposed to be a Irish priest. So I'm playing all of your
okay.
roles in one.
You are, yeah.
This should have been your roles, what I'm saying.
A Western Irish priest.
Yeah,
yes.
should have been you.
But they wanted long hair.
I'm very
so.
yeah. But I'm very nervous about this this accent. We'll see how it goes.
It's tough, but there are tools out there, you
Yeah.
can find. Even YouTube, as long as several of the videos are doing it the same way, I'm like, okay, I feel pretty confident then. I just don't go off of like, one video with 100 views. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know that you know what you're talking about.
I mean, for the audition, I'm really into an Irish show called Dairy Girls.
Yeah.
So I just watched the shit out of that show. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. It's great.
Okay.
I
Shameless
watched,
plug.
Yeah, shameless plug for a show that I'm not involved with. I just enjoy it a lot. I just watched that a bunch. I was like, I can kind of mimic them. And that's about as much as I did for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about just doing things leading up to shoots or auditions that just helps you to absorb stuff. Even if you don't have to learn an accent. Like if have a big like kind of small town, well, like a No Country for Old Men type of audition, then I'm going to watch that show or that movie or a period piece and I put on 3:10 to Yuma or There Will Be Blood or something. And maybe I'm not even going to sit down, but it's just going to be on in the background. Because I think, I'm not hugely spiritual in the whole absorbing things way, but I do think that there's some sort of influence on you psychologically, that really sets in, especially with accents. I'm like, well, let me just hear someone else talking about that and that will help me, pick it up. But
yeah, I mean, when I got the callback for the Western, I didn't even know what role they'd called me back for because it's an indie film. It's always they're always different how things go. So like, you have a callback. We'd like to meet you at this time and this date. It's like, perfect. I'm gonna start watching Godless. Like,
nice.
I was like, I need to just put some Westerns into my brain.
Yeah, sure.
And
that's great.
So that's where I started. Is like, I need to start watching Godless because I hadn't watched it yet.
Yeah.
Still haven't watched all of it, but I've seen a bit.
Nice. Yeah. It's a long watch, but
yeah. But it's useful in some way to just like see what other people have done with that same base material of like Western or like comedy. I watch so many comedies because we make comedies.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm always like, what are other people doing? And make sure I don't do the same thing. 'Cause
right.
you can only tell the same joke so many times.
It's interesting. I once met an actor. He said that he is seeing like maybe 5 movies in his life. And he says that he just doesn't watch movies. And the main reason was he enjoys other things, which that's fine then.
Yeah.
But his secondary reason was he said he didn't want to, pick up anything from someone else.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to even subconsciously copy something that he'd seen or whatever. And I thought that's very interesting. I mean, and especially with comedy, I imagine it's difficult because you hear so many jokes that are great and maybe they spark something, but you got to really make sure that you don't.
Sometimes I'll have like
an
idea for like a short film or like just like a little joke or sketch, and I'll like Google things around that idea to just like did I see this or am I making it up in my head? Like what's happening? Because there's also like a lot of like videos on the internet of like joke thieves. And there's like the comparison videos, and I'm like,
you can get killed for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dane Cook. That's what killed him was supposedly he stole Louis C.K.'s jokes.
Yeah.
Maybe he should come back. I don't know.
Right. Have you seen Louis' show?
Not all. I started it, and then like the same 3 weeks I started it in was when like all the Louis stuff came out, and I was like, I'll just put that away for a little bit.
A little uncomfortably watching it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I thought he did a great job
But
of.
I know he does a scene with Dane.
Yeah, you've probably seen that scene at least.
I've seen that scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he does kind of do an episode that's centered around Dane Cook a little bit, and I thought that was a really great way to be like, hey, let's kind of make up here, Louis fans. You don't need to hate Dane Cook viscerally for this, but at the same time, it's like maybe you want to admit that even if you don't think you stole it, like maybe you accidentally
heard it.
said something, that's pretty similar. But I think
I thought it was handled really well.
Yeah.
I thought that was impressive. But yeah, I think it baffles me when there are people in this industry. They're like, no, I don't watch. I was at an indie film festival a year ago, and one of the filmmakers was like, yeah, I don't really watch movies at all. Like, what makes you want to make one then? Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Especially as a filmmaker, as a director, producer, whatever, it's like you're not just coming in for one day to say some lines.
Yeah.
You put in all that work to something that you maybe don't necessarily even enjoy watching.
Yeah,
TV.
exactly.
I mean, that's great if that works for them. It's difficult to wrap your mind around a little bit.
Yeah. I can't do it because like I'm movie obsessed. Like that's what got me into it. And like you got the bookshelves of books around us. There's just as many movies upstairs.
Nice.
There's just too much media in my life.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of DVDs too, which Tosin loves to make fun of me for. But I'm just like, number one, I've got a bunch of stuff on streaming too. I've got Netflix, I've got Prime.
I have Netflix, I have Prime, I have Hulu.
I have Netflix DVD too.
Oh, do you still have Netflix DVD?
Actually, I got it. Well, I got it when I moved to New Mexico, and at one point I was just going without internet and just using my phone to like connect to my computer. But then I was like, well, I can't watch Netflix then, but I can get Netflix DVD and have them sent to me at least and just play them on my PS3 or whatever. And then I realized this is actually really great because streaming has plenty of options, and usually between Hulu, Prime, and Netflix you can find it.
Specific you want to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of like older or just really like small indie things that Netflix has that I couldn't find anywhere else other than on DVD. So I was like, it's worth it then. I'll keep it. Why not?
That makes sense to me because like I love the Duplass brothers. I've seen a lot of their like later work, but I want to watch The Puffy Chair someday.
Yeah, it's probably on Netflix DVD.
Well, it originally got their original distribution deal was through Netflix.
Oh,
so I'm sure.
I'm not sure I knew that.
That's where they first sold it was to Netflix. Because Netflix was just in its infancy.
Yeah.
And they were just picking up anything that was indie and good, and so
or just indie,
just mostly just indie. So I want to see it, but I don't really want to buy. I've tried to quit buying as much DVDs because I'm trying to put that money into making my own movies.
Yeah.
Even though it's like $10, that's like the thing that I've been like, all right, I'll cut this out. I'm quit doing comic books. I quit buying movies, and I'm putting it all into the making movies.
That's smart.
So still with like, I want to see the puffy chair though. I might break down and I might buy it.
Yeah, that'd just be one. That'd be one classic. Yeah. I try to stop buying as many also. I still enjoy it, and I still love just kind of the nostalgia of having a bunch of them. I even own stuff that I'm not going to sit down and watch, but in case, friends are over or whatever, and they're like, oh, let's watch this. I've got it, most likely, hopefully.
That's how I feel too. And like, I know for a fact I've sold 4 DVDs back to like a video store, and they're still in my brain, and it bothers me. So I shouldn't get rid of those if the other 4 are already still there.
That's true. You can't give all that space in your brain to all those movies. Like,
I can't give 100 spots or like 1,000 spots of space to just like, I wish I still had American Pie 4.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, pro tip. Go out, as much as I hate saying that phrase, can't believe I just said it, but go out on Black Friday and get your DVDs then. That's the one thing sometimes I'll, find something in the $5 bin at Walmart or whatever if I happen to be there. Yeah. Ugh. But typically it's Black Friday. I'm like, oh, okay, you've got this for $2.99 on Blu-ray? Sure, I can do that.
The past 2 years I haven't bought any DVDs except for Black Friday.
Nice.
That's been like I break the rule one day a year.
Yeah.
Recently I've been trying to I've been trying to watch Steven Spielberg's movies in order.
Oh, okay.
Just because I've been intrigued to do that. I don't know.
Sure.
And some of them I haven't been able to find streaming or at the library. So like I had to buy Always.
Gotcha.
And it was good. I liked it.
I don't think I've seen it, actually.
I didn't know I had never heard of it.
Yeah. To look at his IMDb.
Yeah.
Check out his massive list of stuff he's directed.
It's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
We're to the second Jurassic Park now.
Well, you're making your way through then.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
And soon you're going to come out the other end where he doesn't want Netflix to get awards, basically. So.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't want not only Netflix, but he doesn't want people streaming movies at all.
Right.
But
I don't think you're going to win that fight, Steven. Don't think so.
It's interesting how like those guys, like they were the like indie rogues, and now they've like outgrown it.
Right.
And now like we're the indie rogues.
Yeah.
So, like, no, we need this new thing, just like in the 70s you needed your new thing.
Right. I think it'd be fascinating to sit down and talk with him about it, because I'm sure that other people have said that, and maybe he even knows it. I'm sure he knows it. The only argument that I could see would be him being like, well, we were trying to be the rogues because we really love film, and we were trying to do it this way or this more pure way, or we wanted to tell our stories. But now we feel like
there's too many stories being told.
I guess, and to them maybe like film is, shown in a theater on, with that experience and everything, and streaming isn't necessarily that. So maybe his argument is it's still for the love of film. I just want to protect it or something. Yeah. But it's just not the way that it's going to be, Yeah. And even like Roma showed in theaters for a bit. Yeah. Long enough to qualify, and then
a lot of them, do it long enough to qualify. Yeah.
So it's not like it's never been shown in one, but I don't know. It'd be a fascinating conversation to have with him, though. Yeah. Hopefully you can have him on the podcast.
I would love to. Right? Yeah. If he's listening, just come on to my house, Steven. We could hang out. It'd be great.
Here's the address. You ready for it?
Yeah. So that's something I'll give this last point and see where it goes, and that'll probably be the end of this. Sure. Because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I appreciate you giving it to me.
I'm good, but cut me off whenever.
Sweet. Talking about the group of people, I feel like you're especially from a group of people in the Kansas City area that really helped build this film scene. And like, you're the group of like, at least for my experience, you're one of the guys. You know what I mean? Like you, and there's like Tozen, and there's like Patrick Ray and Anthony Laddish. And like, there are these guys that like built what like now I'm kind of reaping the benefits of. You know what I mean? Like,
interesting.
And like, there are these guys that like the guys that you were building it up with, like you've gone on to do a lot of cool things. Like you're now down in Albuquerque, and you've been on Godless and From Dusk Till Dawn and The Kid, and Tozen's up in Chicago and he's on The Chai and like Black Lightning and a bunch of cool shit. And like, I wonder what your perspective on that is like. Like, do you feel like that is a thing, or is this just my own, I'm putting this on to you? Or is it cool to be like, oh my God, all these guys that I started with are now going on to do really cool things?
Yeah, man. I mean, that means a lot to hear, first of all, because whether I agree with it or not, to know that people feel that way,
Yeah.
it's cool, you know? And I remember when I first was going to try to move to Kansas City and seeing, an actress that had three films showing in the KC Film Fest or something, and I was just like, I mean, how do I ever even
Yeah.
get up to that level? Like I can't even get cast in one, So
Yeah.
I remember what it was like to kind of look at, oh, these are the people that are kind of established here, and I'm gonna kind of go on my own journey and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a way, I had a hand in it along with a ton of other people,
Yeah.
obviously, of course. And I'm very grateful that there were so many people that kind of told me on the way up, like, oh, this is the way we do things, or you might want to avoid this, and kind of helped to guide me a lot. And so I just really all I ever tried to do was then pay it forward.
Yeah.
And my agent says something. She's like, well, if we're all, kind of on this ladder or whatever to success, then there's somebody that's always going to be in front of you and behind you.
Yeah.
So
So
if
it's
somebody
like,
reaches back and helps somebody along, and the person ahead of them reaches back and helps
yeah.
them along, then we all kind of progress that way.
So it's just my limited view of it. It's like you're the guy right above like myself on this ladder, and there were people above you, I'm sure, in
Sure,
Kansas
sure.
City that helped you. I just like
Sure.
I didn't get to see them.
True.
So
true.
in my world, it's just you.
Well, an indie film did have to start somewhere in KC. Like, it
Yeah.
hasn't been there for 40 years or anything. It's
Yeah.
not like Life where this is all just a circle. But yeah, Patrick Ray and Tony Laddish and
So like there's so
Todd
many.
Norris and so many. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't even get into naming them, but I do think it has been cool to watch them all kind of put out such amazing work that it motivated other people to, if they had the means, to really start to up
to
their
start
game.
yeah.
And for other people who just had the means to even start, then they started, and kind of decided to jump into this whole awesome indie world here in KC. And to see, like, Patrick went on, he made Nailbiter, a feature film that he'd been wanting to make for a long time, and he's made other features.
And now they're actually doing Nailbiter too. Like it's
that's
gone
what
on to
that's
the
what I've
point.
heard.
That's what I'm hearing at least.
Yeah, I don't know any details about it, but
Me
it sounds
either.
like that. Yeah. And then, like, Tony's, I worked with him when he was DP on a couple of things, and now he's like directing Sprint commercials, and
Yeah.
it is
He's
cool
gearing
to see.
up for his like first feature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And I mean, a lot of people I know that were like, oh, maybe I want to try it, whatever. Well, now they've got 5-10 films under their belt.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, and yeah, it is kind of a fun. I mean, it's almost just like any friend group, I guess. I think back to my best friends. Like I have some friends that I've known for 20 years, and 15 to 20 years, and we still get together as frequently as we can whenever I'm back here. And it's just cool to look at their lives and see, oh, this is, now you're doing this. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's the same now with my group, quote unquote, as you called it, in Kansas City. Like, as we kind of split off, and some stayed here and are doing awesome things.
Yeah.
But some kind of split off thinking, well, I want to try this or that. And again, some of them decided it's not really for me. I'd rather come back. That's totally fine. And with others like Tosin, just kind of, has had so many successes. And I do feel fortunate. Like I said, I'm no big thing or anything like that, but at the same time, I know my goals that I had when I moved to New Mexico, and I know that I was fortunate enough to exceed them.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty thrilled about that. And yeah, it's cool to see people's progress in life,
Yeah.
even if I'm just tangentially connected to them, just Facebook friends with some of KC Film now.
Yeah.
But to see the cool stuff they're putting out is awesome.
I feel like the same way, and that's why I love doing this podcast. Even it's 'cause, like I love hearing about like how they got to do the cool stuff that like I've seen them do, and like I think I've only done one so far, but I have some friends who I'm interested in bringing back to be like, it's been a year, 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Like,
that's cool.
what if like you've done so many other cool things since then? Like,
yeah,
we should talk about that. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's just,
that'd be a great way to have some perspective.
Yeah.
On, oh, this is what we talked about last time, and now this is what's going on. Like, I wish, like, I talked earlier about how I feel like there are two different versions of me in my life, and I wish that there had been a podcast done with me,
yeah.
at my 9 to 5, enjoying that, with my life headed one very specific direction, just for me to look back now and be like, okay, that's very interesting.
That's very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Old Chris.
Right. And some of the things I know I was wrong about, and that's totally fine, and some of it's just different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting. But I'm glad to be growing and changing, and I hope that everybody continues to grow rather than just stagnating. Some people sometimes, if you see old friends from high school or whatever, And
they're still the same.
yeah, one of them will be like, "Oh, you really changed," or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's the point, right? In life, like you're supposed to grow and
Yeah.
learn new things, and that's supposed to change you if you're open to it,
Yeah.
But
Being like a filmmaker, an artist, or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I have that other thought though that's like, am I still just am I just still a kid? Like, am I the one that like everyone, they've got kids, they
yeah,
have jobs. I'm just here playing pretend with my buddies.
yeah,
Like,
just tapping in my creativity, as often as possible. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my younger sister actually just had a kid.
Congratulations.
Yesterday. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Or was that this morning? No, that was yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people used to ask me when my older siblings had kids, like, oh, how does that make you feel? Like jokingly. But
Yeah.
now I'm sure that the questions will especially come. Now you've been passed, like in your family. Now your
Yeah.
younger siblings are having kids. I just think it's awesome. I just look at it as it's two different ways of living a life. One is a little more like, well, these are the goals when I have this dependable income, which who could ever say something is wrong with that?
Yeah.
And start a family whenever you feel like it. That's great too. For people like you and me, I just feel like we're just wired differently, where it's just not as important to me, even money to me. I'm like, hey, I know I need money to sustain this career.
I barely understand that I need it.
Yeah,
In the
just
fact
enough.
that like just enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's important though, because if you look at this industry or this endeavor to get into acting from a financial standpoint, you would never ever go into it.
No.
No one would, because there's just no, even for me to do it as a hobby in Kansas City, every time I went from Topeka to Kansas City was probably $25 in gas and tolls.
Yeah.
Like, so you do that 4 times a month, you're spending $100 and being paid nothing.
Yep.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But, if I hadn't done it, then none of this would have ever happened. And I took a really big gamble in Albuquerque too when I first moved there, and stuff wasn't really quite panning out. I won't get into the whole story because I know we're near the end of this anyway. But I was like, all right, either I do the smart thing and move back and maybe, set up shop in Kansas City and start a production company, maybe get into commercials and some other things.
Yeah.
Or like I take this gamble and see if I can hang on here for a little bit longer. And, my brother is super smart and he's really great financially as well. And he, of course, is like, well, you really should think about this, because it doesn't look like much, but later on that it was an IRA basically that he's like, later on it's going to be worth a lot more. And my tax guy too was like, hey, it's not a sound financial decision. It's not much right now, but later on, hopefully it will be. That's the whole goal of an IRA, obviously. And I was like, yeah, but you're right. But like, what am I going to value more, when I'm dead or dying, whenever that is?
Yeah.
Like having that little bit more money, or really giving it one more shot to do something that I want to do the rest of my life. So I was like, all right, chips are in. I'm doing it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being smart. But
thanks for giving me the good advice, the good sound advice
that I'm not going to ignore. Take. Yeah, I'm going to be that guy. But like you said, you can understand it, but you can only understand it to a certain point. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this. But
yeah, because it's a nonsense career.
Yeah.
And it's as bad as deciding your career is the lottery.
True. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Although it is encouraging to meet so many actors and filmmakers that, like, I don't recognize them right off or anything, but they've made careers out of, having, well, from an actor's perspective at least, having, they had 3 roles on CSI though, and they had 15 roles on that show I've never heard of, but it's still union, it still pays, and so they've been able to make a quote-unquote career. They're not rich from it or anything. But they're making
a living and they're enjoying what they do.
Making a living, being able to do what they want to do their whole life. And I'm like, okay, so the lottery I really look at is for sure like the A-list stuff. Like if that happens, that's just pure happenstance. Whoever you met or whatever luck happened there.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of a mini lottery, I guess, to go for any career in acting, but it is more achievable. Some of these pretty enviable careers, I think, just steady working in this awesome business.
But I think like even with that and how like insane it is and how you even just said it's crazy in a business mindset, I feel like you have a very good business mind for acting. At least it seems like it. It seems like you're very smart about choosing Albuquerque's where I'm going to go because I have this look and I have this specific set of skills and it's going to do the best in Albuquerque. And you seem very aware of the industry in a way that positions you to be more successful. which is great.
That's said very, very well. Like, that's the goal.
Yeah.
For me, as much as I know that it's a gamble and I know that I can't think about things too logically and all that, at the same time, it's like, it makes no sense to not at least try.
Yeah.
Like, if you're playing blackjack, then why not at least try to count cards? Like, maybe you can't, but if you can a little bit, then you have somewhat of an idea, you know? Yeah, and for me, that was huge. And I just love the industry, too, so I want to learn as much as possible about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was like, hey, I want to know as much as possible. I want to know what casting's looking for. And I've also cast in the past, so it helps that I already kind of have that idea. But I got to know, what markets are known for what. I got to know, like, I do reels on the side as a reel editor, so I got to know, okay, like, what are they looking for? What's going to get me into a room, kicked out of a room? Yeah. Because that, at least, like you said, sets me up the best way possible, and then whatever happens. And sometimes people will be like, oh, whatever, it's all a roll of the dice anyway. Most of the time they're kind of jaded by that, and I totally understand it. But what sense does that make, to be like, oh yeah, it's just a roll of dice, cool, I'm just gonna literally do that then and not really look into the career at all? Like, you may as well give yourself the best bad odds possible rather than just being like, whatever happens, you know? So I definitely do try to approach it from a business mindset as much as possible. So.
Well, I think that's great because it seems to have been working.
I think it has so far. You know, now I'd like to win the lottery, but
yeah, and you will. I think you will.
Yeah, we'll see. Whatever happens.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on. I think
thanks for having me.
A good spot to wrap up at.
Sure. Whatever happens, happens. Can't wrap up better than that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, there you go. That was Chris Bylsma. Guys, I got Chris Bylsma on the podcast. Did you see that? That was cool. I hear that. That was cool. All I had to do was ask and quit being so worked up about it and such a weirdo. But that was it. That was Chris Bylsma. I think we should all strive to be a little more like him because that's a great outlook he has, I think. I want to have more of an outlook like that instead of worrying all the time like I do. He also does workshops in town about acting in the industry. So next time he's in town, you should definitely go see him, go be a part of that workshop if you're interested in acting professionally, because he has a lot of knowledge and he likes to give that knowledge to people. So you should go see him. Also, by the way, we talked about Green Book, and I've seen that now. I saw the movie. Like I said in the podcast, now that was in the past and this is the now. I watched that movie, and I still think they should make a movie about Dr. Shirley. I would love to see that movie. I also ended up buying the puffy chair. That's crazy. So many things that I said I wanted to do, I did. I followed through and I did it. It was great because I was at Vintage Stock and I found it for $1 in a bargain bin. And I bought it and I watched it. And so that was a great find. Good day. Like I always say, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to this podcast, and listen again later. Thank you. Bye.